I was a very young actor, new to Los Angeles, and I was there with really very little qualifications or opportunities. I had very little money. I did not have an agent. I didn't have working papers. It seems very naive and idealistic that I was there at all. So I was at a party and I met him, and I didn't really know much about him at the time. He had to explain to me who he was. And I think he got a kick out of my candor and the sort of small town girl that I was at the time. We had a chat, and I did my best to be witty and interesting. And you know, any meeting in LA is a little bit like an audition, because you never know who is going to be that person that changes the game for you. And so I found myself talking to this powerful producer, and I just wanted to impress him so that if I was in an audition room and he was on the other side of the table, he would remember me, and I would have an advantage to an actor who came in the room who he did not know.
How old are you at the time?
I think I was 21. This was in 2001. Yeah.
And so you meet this really powerful producer who maybe you'd heard his name before but didn't know much about. And as you say, you tried to charm him and just be witty and all those things to try and get a leg up, so to speak. What happens then?
Well, he was very encouraging. He really responded to me and my stories, and he told me right away that he had an eye for talent, that he was never wrong, and that I was going to do really well in Los Angeles. And he was not subtle in talking about the careers that he had helped to build. And he wasn't subtle about telling me about people who he had helped to take down either. Looking back, I realized that he was sort of setting me up and flexing his power a little bit, so that by the time I left and you know, I had access to him. I had his assistant's number, and he was going to call me, and there was going to be, I felt there was going to be, a series of opportunities that were at my feet because I had met the great and powerful Harvey Weinstein. And that's not exactly how it went. And yet I met him a couple of times over the years. And although he behaved inappropriately, I was able to somehow justify seeing him again because it was never bad enough, or perhaps my fear of him was big enough.
When do you see him next? How does that even happen?
Well, he tells me that we're going to have a meeting and we're going to talk about what he can do for my career. I leave that night thinking, this is it. You know, I have this guy in my corner, and I really believed him that he was going to be a help to me. You know, I thought maybe he would introduce me to an agent. Maybe he could get me into a casting room. Like anything would have helped at that point. I was really a nobody. And so the fact that he was offering this same sort of relationship where I might have opportunities by knowing him, that seemed like, you know, when you see the white whale, you get in the boat, you know, like that. It was taking the meeting was the obvious choice. But then the meeting has changed at the last minute. He would often have his assistants contact me anyway, and now I've learned others as well. And so it seems very professional. It seems legitimate. You have an assistant making a business arrangement for you, and, you know, an assistant greets you at the door. And so I'm thinking I'm safe. I'm fine. But at the same time, I'm a young girl and I'm not an idiot, and alarm bells are going off that I'm walking into a cliche here.
The cliche being what? Where are you meeting him?
The cliche being a young actress meeting an older, powerful man at a hotel, because at the last minute, he would sort of bait and switch and have an assistant call and say, and I only know this now that it's trend because I've been reading, but it happened to me twice. He had his assistant call me at the last minute and say, Harvey can't meet you in the lobby. Harvey can't meet you in the cafe. Can you go up to his office? But he's in a hotel. So his quote unquote office is his hotel suite. And yes, there's a table in it, but you're still in a hotel room. And the assistant left as soon as I got there. The assistant leaves and the door closes. And then I am at the mercy of this person He very quickly changed his tone once I had entered the hotel room, and we were no longer talking about my career or his work. His face changed. His register changed. His voice changed, and he wanted to know if I was cool and if we were friends, and he just wanted to relax with me. And he put an arm around me and started, as if he was a boyfriend all of a sudden, started trying to be intimate with me. I don't remember the details of exactly what happened because it was a very long time ago. I just remember that feeling of having to fight off an invader, but I had to do it in a friendly way because I was terrified to anger this man. So I'm trying to laugh, I'm trying to negotiate, and I'm using all of my wits to talk my way out of this situation. No, I have a boyfriend. No, can we talk about business? Come on now. Stop. Trying to keep it light, trying to keep from embarrassing this man. It's amazing to me the efforts that I've made to not embarrass this person who is acting so unethically. And looking back, it seems very obvious, but in the moment, I didn't smack him and run. I didn't yell because he wasn't being outright violent with me. He wasn't holding me down. He was just making a move, and I didn't want it. And so he settled for, he said, how about you just give me a massage? I've had a long day, and I just want to relax. Can we talk while you give me a massage? And that seemed like the least offensive way for me to get out of the room. So I literally massaged his shoulders in order to get out. And I left feeling very disgusted and confused. But I had felt so implicit in this happening because I had charmed him at a party. I had asked for the business. I was hustling, I was going for it. And so then I got the meeting I wanted. He changed the game suddenly, and I was faced with the decision of angering this Hollywood titan with a reputation or trying to get out. I thought that it was just me. I thought that something I had done had provoked this behavior in him. And so I was deeply guilty for whatever I had done to allow this to happen. And I had not told anyone because I was embarrassed that I'd fallen into such an obvious cliche. And I wasn't even sure what to call it. I knew that when he called again, I would answer the phone. And even more than that, I called him. I pursued the contact in as professional a way as I could. And
how much did you keep in touch with him after that?
Sort of as little as possible while still touching base. I didn't want to see him again, but I still held out hope that he was going to be a connection for me in some way. I felt that after that had happened in that LA hotel room, that I had this secret, and that made me a little bit dangerous. It didn't occur to me that it was happening all the time. I pursued the connection, hoping that I could take some of my power back, I guess.
And so, Erika, you leave that first meeting, and he says to you, what? See you later. Keep in touch?
Yep. Yeah. He says, I'm a busy man, but I'm going to be able to be a good friend to you. And you're going to have to call me. You're going to have to keep in touch with my assistant. You're going to have to call me. Just call me every once in a while. Tell me what you're up to. And when an opportunity comes up, we'll talk again. And I did it like a sucker.
And so you meet Harvey Weinstein a couple years later then.
His casting director was going to meet with me in New York. He said, my assistant's going to fly you down and you're going to meet with casting. And I really thought that was going to be an opportunity, and that not only was I going to have this opportunity, but I didn't have to see him. And so I was I was still afraid of this guy, but I knew that I had stayed on his good side. I had touched base. He had asked about my family. He'd been very cordial and professional. And I thought, okay, that was a glitch. That was a weird night in LA. I'm going to chalk it up to a wild experience from my youth, and that's it. I'm walking away from that. This is a new opportunity. His casting director is a woman, and I'm not even going to see him. He doesn't work in that office. So I went to their office and I met with her, and I had a legitimately exciting meeting. And then on my way out, I got a text from his assistant saying that Harvey wants to see you before you get on the plane. So I once again felt trapped, and he was once again inappropriate. And
where did you meet him?
I met him at his office. I think it was in Tribeca or Soho. And he had an office full of people, but he led me to a quiet office and closed the door behind us. And once again, I went there willingly because I was taking advantage of an opportunity that he had given me to meet with casting. So I felt like, of course, I have to go and meet with Harvey Weinstein. It's Harvey Weinstein. I can't say no to him. And then I had to do this dance once again of trying not to anger him while he tried to be intimate with me. Like, as soon as he switched this on, it was like I was on a date that I had not agreed to, just like the first time. And it was the lack of agreement that I found so shocking because knowing who he was and knowing the power he had, he's not an idiot. He had to have known that there's nowhere for me to go. And so he violates you simply by making that advance in such an aggressive way. It's not like he just put it on the table with his words. He's right up in my face, and he's got his arms around me. And so I have to talk my way out of it without angering him again. And I make excuses, and I talk about my boyfriend, and I whisper because I don't want the people outside the office to hear me fighting him off. So like I'm covering for him even as he's doing it. And in the moment, it seems like self-preservation and saving my career because he could make it or break it. And looking back, it just seems like a bug in a spider's web. I'm a little angry, as you can probably tell. I tried really hard not to think about this for a long time, and I hadn't talked to anybody about it until this story broke.
Erika, you met with Harvey Weinstein in Toronto during TIFF, the Toronto International Film Festival.
Yep.
What happened that time?
Well, he was once again really encouraging when we were in public. Acted as though I was an up-and-coming actor. Introduced me to whoever he was talking to, like I was a legitimate member of the community. Treated me with respect, and said, can you tell my assistant that we need to talk tomorrow? I'm running all over the place. I'm selling this movie, but we should talk while we're both in Toronto for this festival.
And what year is this?
I don't remember, actually. I had met the man that I'm married to now, so I think it was 2005. I honestly don't remember the timeline of my dealings with him. I think because I've tried so hard not to think about it over the years.
Okay. So you take the meeting with Weinstein. He says, we should talk.
Yeah. So I take the meeting. His assistant is lovely and she's super cool and it's booked before dinner, and it just feels like, okay, there's no way this can get away from me. But once again, the meeting has changed, and I ask the assistant where I'm supposed to go, and she says, "Oh, we're up at the suite. We're late for dinner. It's going to have to be brief." And I'm thinking, well, that's very hopeful. Like, there's a female in the room. He's rushing around. There's no way this can go badly. And like a sucker, I go and meet him in a hotel room again, and the assistant lets me in and leaves. And again, as soon as the door closes behind me, I'm damned if I do and damned if I don't. And he is clearly upset. And he comes to the door. He comes out of the bathroom wearing only a dress shirt. So he's in process of getting ready or something. So I'm already on edge because I'm alone in this room with him, and he's wearing no pants, and I immediately start making excuses to leave without angering him further. You're really busy. This is a bad time. We will chat another day. Seriously, I'm trying my best to get out, and this angers him. And he asks me to come to the washroom with him while he gets ready and takes a shower, and I flat out say I'm not staying while you take a shower. That's ridiculous. I have to go. And he's angry with me for trying to leave. He was angry when I walked in. I don't know what had happened, but he was pissed that I was trying to back out of it. And I felt like it was implicit that he had done me this favor to take a meeting with me, and now I was going to waste it. And so I follow him to the open door of the bathroom, and the toilet seat has been broken. Like a giant smashed it. Like it was in 3 pieces, and he kind of brushes it off as nothing. And he grabs me by, he holds me by the back of the neck and faces me to the mirror and very quietly tells me that he just wants to look at me. And he starts to masturbate, standing behind me. And I stood there and I did nothing. I remember him looking right into my face, and I remember looking at my own reflection, and I think I was just too shocked to move or say anything. I couldn't believe it was happening. And yet I could, because I had encountered his impropriety before. Enough time had gone by that I had once again made excuses for myself for him and justified why I should meet him again. But I stood there. I can't describe that feeling. I think he really took something from me by taking advantage in that way, and by doing it in such a manipulative manner to make me think that I was going along with it in any way. I think the first time that he crossed the line behind closed doors and saddled me with a secret belonging to this powerful man, I think he took something.
I'm sorry that happened to you. When you leave, do you tell anyone?
No one. No, I never told anyone.
Why not?
I was ashamed. Anytime I tried to imagine saying it out loud, and even now, years later, and with all of this coming to light, telling the story, it sounds insane to me. Like, it sounds like you have to be either so dumb that you don't see it coming, or really just very opportunistic that you're going to keep pursuing it and really looking to trade favors. And I was neither of those things. So telling the story, it really sounds crazy, even to me.
When did you tell someone? When did you tell your partner, your family?
Last week.
Last week?
Yeah, when this story broke and I realized the enormity of the secret I'd been carrying.
For 12 years?
Yeah. I had told a friend some time ago that he had been gross. Like, I'd sort of just chalked it all up to him being icky. Like, I'd really sort of downplayed it into like, oh, well, men will be men type of thing, kind of like that old boys will be boys scenario. I'd never told anybody what happened. I just didn't think I could take down a giant.
So you told your husband last week,
Yep.
and you thought this secret that you've been carrying around for more than a decade was your secret and no one else's. And so
Yeah.
when you start seeing the stories, what have you been thinking?
Well, I've had a very strange week. It was a difficult conversation with my husband, but luckily we have a very good relationship, and he immediately saw why I could not say anything back then. He understood that I was trying to protect myself. But I had to apologize for lying outright and saying, oh yeah, it went fine, and acting hopeful when I was horrified. And, that's not something we do in our relationship. So that was hard. And having him in my corner has been a huge relief. And I wish I'd said something sooner.
Do you regret not telling anyone sooner?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Because I realize I'm not the only one.
It was an assistant that led you to his hotel room, and then they left.
Yeah.
Looking back, what do you think of that?
I think if it hadn't have been that assistant, it would have been another. The assistants probably made their peace with wanting to get their opportunity in some way. And if they weren't going to do the job, somebody else would.
Are you suggesting that the assistant or assistants that Harvey Weinstein had knew what was going on?
How could they not know? Leading a young girl into a hotel room meeting. I don't see there being any way that they did not know what was happening. But at the same time, that casting couch phenomenon that I heard plenty of, and I thought, well, maybe these assistants are just doing their part of what they think is a consensual transaction. Like maybe that assistant thinks that I am willing to sleep my way into a role, but I know that there's no way they were completely naive to what was happening.
What do you hope comes of all of this? All these women coming forward about one guy.
I genuinely hope that this conversation keeps going, and that more and more people, and it's obvious it's not just women, that more and more people are strengthened by the strength of all these people coming forward with their story, and that the climate changes so that abuse of power is no longer a shameful secret that we keep individually, but something that we out, that it can't be okay. And I feel that with every story and with every person who is brave enough to come forward, we take the wind out of the sails of that narrative. And more women are supporting each other and creating their own work, and we have many men in our corner who act honorably and who do the right thing. And the more we hear from those people, and the more we support the victims of this kind of abuse of power, I really think that this could be the beginning of a change for our industry.
Are you okay?
I am okay. Yeah, I'm okay. I'm hopeful that these stories, as uncomfortable as they are to share, that they will help people who don't necessarily have the privilege that I've had. And if I can change the game for even one person, then I'm happy that it's not a secret anymore.